What's up, reefers? Today I'm going to do a little update on the 210, show you some of my algae struggles. I've had a lot of algae struggles. How I'm going to combat that, and that includes a little upgrade to the RO unit. A couple new corals, nothing too fancy, but I'll show them off. Here we go. And as you can see, here's the algae here. Basically, this is minimal compared to what I had a couple weeks ago. The algae just completely overtook everything, particularly when I was on vacation, and it just grew to the point where you couldn't see the tank. It was just algae everywhere. I went in there with some tongs and a strainer and took out roughly 10 pounds worth of algae. It looks 100 times better now than it did prior. You can actually see rock now to the point where I can put some of the corals on the rock, which is nice. Right now, I am on a sort of grow out phase with the tank. Basically, because we had so much algae, some of it choked some of the coral, and I just couldn't save some of it. A lot of it died. So basically what I'm doing now is the stuff that did survive, I'm kind of keeping in the tank and letting it grow out. I'm not going to do anything fancy for a little while until I know the parameters are perfectly stable, and I'm not getting hair algae all over the place again. And, you know, I can actually make a purchase. I can make a purchase and not feel that there's going to be algae that's just going to suffocate my purchase. So, long story short, what I did to combat this, I have three things that I did that are a must, in my opinion, to combat this. All right, so the number one thing I did to combat that algae was clean my sump. As you can see, the sump, it's gotten a little bit dirty since I cleaned it, and this was about a week and a half ago or so. But all in all, it looks a lot better than it did prior. As I said before, I overskim in this thing. There's really no reason that overfeeding or anything like that should be any problem, even though I do not overfeed. I usually feed once a day or once every other day, depending on my mood, I guess. But I clean my sump, and when I was cleaning my sump, I noticed a lot of issues down there. Basically, there is a sponge that runs right here. And that sponge goes and basically sieves through the water and, you know, kind of just takes out anything that's large. That sponge was so dirty. And I mean, I've cleaned it before, but this was so dirty because of all the algae that was in the tank that it wasn't passing water through really. And all it was doing was lowering the water level here. Well, that was kicking on my ATO. And I was just throwing fresh water in there like crazy, which obviously you know what can happen there. So I went ahead, like I said, cleaned that out, got rid of the sponge for right now. I'm still cleaning that thing out. And I've been doing about every week changing out my GFO. I know that's excessive, but when you had algae, like, I mean, you can even see on the PVC where the algae is, the algae line was, it was absolutely nuts. And, you know, you can see also on the bottom, there are some remnants on the bottom of the tank, right in there where the snails are and everything, of pieces of algae that are just still there. I mean, I literally grabbed a bunch of algae out of here, but what are you going to do? But that was the number one thing I had to do. I had to get that thing cleaned up. The second thing I had to do was up my game when it came to the cleanup crew. Some of this cleanup crew that I had was lackadaisical, for better terms. Lack of better terms, I should say. But I had to up it. It was lackluster. I know what I had in there wasn't doing a good enough job. I also know that some of the parts of my tank were spotless. I mean, if you actually look at the overflow, sorry for the glare there, you can see the overflow has very little to minimal algae on there. Nothing. Now, if I go over to the other overflow, and hard to see, namely because I just gave reefroids to my SBS in my tank, really. But so my skimmer doesn't like it normally and starts spitting micro bubbles out. That is a product of not having that sponge in that I just mentioned. Once I put the sponge in, the bubbles don't come. But at any rate, you can kind of see all the algae that's on there. The back wall has some algae as well. And you can definitely see over here how the algae was on the entire tank. Now, when I did my cleanup crew, I did notice kind of something cool. I have an absolute ton of baby snails, and I'm not even sure what kind of snails these are, but ton of them. I mean, they're all over the place. They're in the sump, they're on the rocks, they're everywhere, and it's awesome bonus that new snails. But yeah, I've never had snails actually breed in my tank before, and I've never had those babies actually live long enough to clean the tank. But sort of a nice little surprise there. I was quite taken back when I first saw them. Really neat thing about those snails too, and while we're on cleanup crew, they all have this really cool orange or red and white type shell. It's really neat looking. I just like the looks of them, and hope they get big enough to where you can actually see the coloration when they get older, and hopefully they don't lose that coloration. I'm really not too sure what type they are. But yeah, so upping the cleanup crew was big, huge. Had to do it. Now I actually have places for all my coral, which, I mean, it was getting absolutely ridiculous. I keep harping on the fact that it's hard to tell what this actually looked like. But if I panned right here, if I sat right here with this camera, it would be a cloud of algae, just a cloud of it. You wouldn't be able to see any of these rocks. So I think so far cleanup crew is doing its job pretty well. Number 3 thing I did was get a new RO unit, and it was well needed. I went with a 6-stage. I had a 4 previously, and I was going through resin like you wouldn't believe. I was going through resin a whole canister of resin every, I would say 30 gallons of water. It was bad. It was really bad. So I decided to update this, try and get something that was going to suit my needs a little bit better. The extra carbon block really would help me, as well as the extra DI resin, which I know I could have just added to the existing system, but I definitely wanted other carbon block. This was another thing that was causing a little bit of issue. Because my water wasn't pure coming into my tank, and it also wasn't pure going into these 2 tanks, which I used for my mixing station. It was, and you can see on the bottom, you can see all the remnants of me cleaning all this stuff. There was film in there, and whatever that film was could be contributing to what I was going through in my tank. So I went in there, cleaned that all out. Still need to shop vac the bottom of that one, but just had to cross my T's and dot my I's and get every single thing I could possibly think of that would be causing this algae out of my tank. So far, and I know I haven't done an update in a long time, but so far it's been roughly 2 weeks since I started this whole process of eliminating algae and getting everything out and whatnot. 2 weeks, and there has been absolutely no new patch algae in my tank. 0. So whatever is going on, whatever I changed, whatever one of those 3 things that helped drastically, and I don't have any new algae, and I don't wake up in the morning, come down here and see just my glass is just covered with brand new algae particles, and it's actually kind of a breath of fresh air not to have to worry about it every single day. But yeah, so those are the 3 things I did. Let me know if there's anything else you did or anything else I'm missing, but for right now, that seems to be doing the trick. I was contemplating, and you guys can comment if you'd like. I've never used one of these, but was contemplating actually getting a UV sterilizer. I've never used them before. However, all my local fish stores use them, and the water seems to be perfectly crystal clear. Now, with that said, I've gotten mixed reviews. A lot of people say, oh, they're great for algae, and some of them say they do nothing, absolutely nothing for algae. All they do is is make the water more clear. Well, I don't know. I've never used them before, and I've never actually gone through the process of reading reviews or whatever on them. So, you know, if you guys know of a good video where they're doing like a before and after, someone adds a UV sterilizer and now their tank looks gorgeous, I'd love to see it. But that's about all I got today. I'm going to do more updates a lot more frequently. I have been going through ugly tank syndrome for too long. And now that I'm getting on top of it, I want to actually update my tank. I want to show everything that I'm doing. It's just, it was such a long, arduous process that I didn't want to show a tank that you couldn't see with so much algae. It was just unbelievable. So, so yeah, that's about it. You know, like, comment, subscribe. Probably the amount of people that have subscribed right now are going to be the amount of people I've subscribed for the rest of the duration of this channel. But anyway, if you're new, please subscribe. You know, let me know if you want to see anything or if you have any questions. Other than that, have fun reefing.